Today, we're diving into the story of a truly forgotten genius from the golden age of Muslim Spain. We're talking about a woman who built an entire empire, not of land or armies, but of books.
So, to really get her story, we have to understand her world first. We're going to step back into the 10th century, into the city of Cordoba. And at that time, it was, without a doubt, the intellectual capital of the Western world.
The contrast here is just staggering. While most of Europe was still, kind of slowly emerging from the shadows, Cordoba was this pulsating heart of knowledge. There was a full-blown intellectual revolution going on. It made future hotspots like Paris or London look like, well, dusty villages in comparison.
And right in the middle of all this light, all this brilliance, one of the key architects of it all has been almost completely lost to history. Her story is usually just a footnote, maybe a single line in a textbook if you're lucky. So, who was she?
Her name was Lubna, and her journey? Wow. It's one of the most incredible stories of social and intellectual mobility I think I've ever heard. It's just a tale of pure, unstoppable determination.
So, let's break down her ascent, because it's truly something else. She was born into enslavement, literally, the lowest possible rung on the social ladder. But from a young age, she had what historical sources called raw talent and relentless determination. And she found herself in the Umayyad court, which was this amazing place, basically a meritocracy of the mind. Your brain power was the real currency there. And in that environment, she wasn't just allowed to learn, she was actively pushed to study and grow. This incredible journey led her right to the heart of Cordoba's intellectual world, the Royal Library. But calling her a librarian is a massive, massive understatement. She was more like the keeper of an entire civilization's brain. 400,000. Just let that number sink in. 400,000 books. To give you some perspective, a really big, important monastery in Europe at the time might have had a few hundred books. This collection in Cordoba wasn't just a library. It was an intellectual supernova. And Lubna? She was in charge of all of it.
So what did her job actually look like? Well, she was the chief archivist, the lead curator, and the acquisitions director, all rolled into one. She was basically the systems architect for this gigantic collection, figuring out how to organize it so scholars could actually use it. We're not talking about just shelving books here. This was a role that would challenge a modern CEO or a data scientist.
And she didn't just sit back and manage the collection. No way. She actively built it. Lubna became this kind of literary detective, traveling all over to places like Cairo and Damascus. Her mission was to hunt down rare manuscripts, bargain for them, and bring all that knowledge back home to Cordoba to enrich the library. It was like a personal quest for the world's wisdom.
But believe it or not, her influence didn't stop at the library doors. She wasn't just an architect of book collections, she was an architect of minds.
Just picture this scene for a moment. You have the young princes, the future caliphs, the men who will one day rule the entire empire, and they're sitting at the feet of a woman who had started her life enslaved, learning everything from mathematics to grammar from her. It just speaks volumes, not only about her incredible genius, but about the world that allowed her to flourish. And as if all that wasn't enough, she was also a celebrated poet. So she mastered the super analytical worlds of math and logic, but she also had what they called a literary soul, this blend of analytical genius and creative talent that makes her a true Renaissance woman, 500 years before the Renaissance even happened. Okay, so this brings us to a really big and frankly a very frustrating question. If she was this monumental, this important, why isn't she a household name?
Exactly. How does a figure who should be right up there with Plato or Da Vinci get reduced to, well, a footnote? The answer tells us a whole lot about how history gets written and, more importantly, who gets written out.
Lubna was basically a victim of what you could call an erasure by oversight. It's not like her story was intentionally destroyed. It was just lost. Lost to the biases of later chroniclers who were mostly men writing about other men. Lost to the simple passage of time. Nobody wrote a grand biography of her life, so all we're left with are these little fragments, like the beautiful, scattered pieces of a broken vase.
But putting those fragments back together is so incredibly important. Her story isn't just some dusty piece of history. It has a powerful legacy that really, really resonates today. Because at its core, Lubna's life is proof of a simple, powerful truth. Genius is universal. It doesn't care about gender or social class or where you came from. All it needs is a chance to shine.
In the end, her story is a testament to two things: the incredible power of the individual human spirit, for sure, but also the amazing potential of a society that is enlightened enough to recognize and nurture talent, no matter where it finds it.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. Lubna's story was buried for over 1,000 years. It just makes you wonder, whose stories are still out there? What other geniuses are waiting for us, hidden in the footnotes of history?